Focus. Focus up. What's going on? My name is Chris Rubio, and along with Nick Monaghan, we welcome you to the Rubio Method. This is episode 20. You guys have been doing a phenomenal job of sharing everything on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, ngbn.tv, and of course, the rubiomethod.com. If you have any questions, always write it down right now. Put it in your phone. Do what you got to do. Email Rubio at therubiomethod.com. We have a phenomenal show. You're going to love the guests. You're going to love the questions. On today's episode, we're going to cover Monaghan and I in a band, social media, the troops, one of my favorite topics, gaining friends, popcorn, overcoming illness, schools that aren't UCLA, raising men. Are the Marines just different? Keeping friends and bringing your A game, all of that and much, much more on episode 20 of the Rubio Method. Christian, I'm out. Focus. Focus up. What's up, Varnell, out in Nashville, Tennessee? Hopefully you're having a nice, safe weekend, my friend. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Google, NGBN, and therubiomethod.com. Also, if you have any questions, don't forget to email Rubio at therubiomethod.com. Here's one of my favorite moments of the week. Minute with Monaghan. Monaghan, please tell me your minute with Monaghan has to do something with Hallmark movies.
Oh man, we're close, but we can incorporate it, my baby. That channel's been locked in on my
Let's go,
TV.
Daddy.
All right, let's get into it. All right, today we're talking about community. Fellas, we suck. We are terrible at doing community, but we need it, right? We always think that we could be lone wolves. Let's get some friends around us if we don't have any already. And today we're talking about 4 ways for you to grow your community around you. Number 1 is volunteer. Volunteering is a great way to meet people, especially if you're volunteering in organizations that you like. Man, meet people that are like-minded and just grab a beer with them afterwards. Number 2, take a class. Again, if it's something that you're into, you're interested in. For me, I love riding motorcycles. I joined a motorcycle class when I first had to learn, and I've been friends with those guys ever since. So join a class, you'll learn something, and then you'll also have fun, make your friends. Number 3 is join a gym, fellas. This is not just your mental health, but your heart health and your body health. Join a gym. Chances are there's a lot of guys there, and if you're into fitness, they are as well. And if you're not, there's plenty of guys that aren't into fitness, but they just kind of do it to make sure that their heart and their health is doing well. So join a gym. And last but not least, man, get online. It sounds crazy, but there's a ton of Facebook groups, especially in your area, where, again, if you're like-minded, you could join these Facebook groups and then become friends with the people. Like you said, grab a beer, watch the game, but get into community. Men, we are terrible at it. So that's your Monaghan Minute. Or Minute with Monaghan. Jeez Louise.
Okay, Monaghan, number 1, still disappointed. I've brought you along. I've raised you up. I thought for sure we'd have a Hallmark moment right now, but we don't. So next one, please. Can you work it in for me, Daddy?
Oh, that's happening. That's happening. Oh, I'm sorry. The 5th one is find out who likes watching Hallmarks and sit and watch those Hallmarks with them every week.
Fantastic. We got to make it happen. They're so good, or there's so many right now. I can't stop talking about it. Monaghan, let's talk about some email questions.
Yes, absolutely. So as Rubio talked about in the beginning, the question comes from Todd in Norco, California. If you guys were in a band, what roles and instruments would you play? I'll go first because I actually am. I play in my church's band, so I actually slap the trout, baby. I play bass, so that would be mine. What about you, Rubio?
Monaghan, number 1, how much I enjoy talking and being the center of attention. So I'd have to go lead singer, even though I can't sing. But Monaghan, I'm going to let you play the real bass. Not a lot of people know this. I'm one of the greatest air bass players of all time. I can slap, I can pluck, air bass, not the real bass. I'm phenomenal.
Oh, hey, next time we're together, I'm playing a little bassy tune, and I want to see that air bass, my baby.
Oh, it's going to happen. It'll happen.
Excellent. Number 2, Tracy in New Jersey. How do you guys handle the swamp on social media? Rubio, go ahead.
You got to learn to just tune it out. This is a great question because Monaghan, you and I actually talked about this earlier this week. It's one of those things that you have to learn just to not respond. There's no way you can respond to 8 billion people, and they've got no, what is it called? Foot in the game or whatever it's called. They're just one of those people that are just mythical, and you can't just keep punching at air the entire time. What's your thought, Monaghan?
Yeah, no, that's literally it, because there's going to be thousands of people that are just saying stuff because they can hide behind the keyboard and say it, and hide behind a fake name with numbers. So it's actually funny too. I just deleted a lot of my social media. It was consuming way too much of my time. And I felt like I was getting drained in the swamp, so to speak. So I narrowed it down to 2, LinkedIn and Facebook. It's been so much easier, so nicer. And I've actually found that my life is not different, or like it's changed, made me a lot happier. And I don't have, I look around and go outside and everything's still fine. Even on social media, the sky's falling. And then last question, Tony, Big Tone in Fort Lauderdale says, I don't believe either one of you guys ever served in the military, but if you did, what branch would you be in? I'll take this one as well. You're correct. Neither of us have served in the military. For one, I think I'm too much of a baby for that. But also, happy birthday, Marines. You guys just celebrated a birthday last week. So, hoorah. But if I had to say, I'd say Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force. And I think I'm a lot like him. We're both soft and you're not very tough. And I hear that's if you want to do a military, you could just go there and life's good. I was on military TikTok for a while, and the Air Force always got the laughs at because they're usually up in nice hotels where everyone else is in a tent. Rubio, what about you?
Yes, I have not been in the military. I think if I did, I'm same with you, Monaghan. I just don't like getting yelled at. And I feel like that's like a prerequisite that you're just going to get yelled at the entire time. So I'm kind of out. If I had to do one, I think I would do Marines. I don't think I could handle it, but they seem to be the most badass. And we'll talk about that with our guest coming up. But Monaghan, have I told you my theory on the military?
Oh,
and no. I've never had a military person disagree with me. So here's my theory. If I was president, here's one of the first things I would do. Once you graduate high school, you have 3 options. Okay, 3 options. You can either go to college, you can go become an adult and work, or you can go to the military. Now, if you go to the military for the rest of your life, you don't have to pay certain taxes because you're doing something that others don't, because you're fighting for something. You're fighting for my freedom as a college student or as a worker that I'm not willing to do because I don't want to or I can't. And if someone ever complains, well, Rubio, I don't want to pay, because the student and worker are going to have to pay extra taxes to make up for the military guy or girl. And if someone says, well, I don't want to pay those taxes, okay, go to the military. Problem solved.
Boom. I think that, hey, open, close case, baby. Why don't you need to run for that?
There it is, Daddy. All right. We finished segment 2 or 1. We'll call this segment 1.5. We've got a great guest coming up after the commercial. Big T. Christian. I'm out.
Military families often sacrifice precious time away from loved ones while serving our country.
We were worried that with him leaving, that she would lose those connections with her dad.
Some of life's best moments happen between parents, children, and the pages of a good book. United Through Reading provides that connection. And now, United Through Reading is also available to veterans. Learn more about United Through Reading at unitedthroughreading.org.
Focus up. I'm talking to you, Laura, out in Georgia. Thanks for taking care of Abraham. And thanks for watching on ngbn.tv, therubiomethod.com, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. Remember, if you guys have any questions, feel free to email Rubio at therubiomethod.com. We have a phenomenal guest that I have known for almost 15 years. You're going to be blown away by this guy's bio. Everything is absolutely fantastic except for the very first thing, which just really lowers his value a lot. This is Mike Frese, Frese. He's an absolute legend. He is a USC graduate. We will not talk about that right now. He could not get into UCLA is what I've heard. He was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps. He's Top Gun. Yeah, that Top Gun, class of 1992. He was a fire-breathing water pilot. I have no idea what the hell that is, but we're going to talk about it. And he's a Delta pilot from 1997 through present. And now we're talking not puddle jumpers. We're talking about like the space shuttle ones that go to Australia and all that. He's been married for 34 years and has two great boys. Well, they're not boys now. They're men. They're real adults. Mike Frese, welcome. Thanks for coming on the Rubio Method.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, Rubio. Thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem. Let's get going with a couple quick hitters just to loosen up everything. Number one, should popcorn be considered a vegetable?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've had edamame at a movie theater, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, because you used to send me a lot of when you'd go to where, Hong Kong?
Well, this was actually in Vegas at one of your camps. I took my dad to see what's it called? The Left Behind, Marcus Luttrell's The Seal Story.
Okay.
And they had edamame at the movie theater. I thought I'd try it. I'm not sure if the old man liked it or not, but I did.
All right.
Yeah.
Number two, I had this question last week, but I want to ask it again just because you travel so much. Name one country you have not been to, and why haven't you?
You know, I haven't been to a lot of Europe, believe it or not. So I've never been to Germany, and I'd like to go to Germany because my background's German, and I just haven't been there because I'm tired of traveling.
I'm actually shocked you've never been to Germany.
Never been. No. Although I have been to a Chris Saylor Bavarian flag parade at the Hofbrauhaus. Does that count?
Number three, Texas Mexican food or Southern California Mexican food?
Southern California Mexican food. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Total shocker. You know, I lived in California before we moved here, and we moved here. It took us a long time to find Mexican that we liked. And now Cammie's from Texas, so she's okay with the Tex-Mex, but it took me a while to find stuff we like here. I still prefer SoCal Mex.
Yeah, the Tex-Mex to me is just a little bit too smoky.
Yeah.
And I don't like the temperature hot salsa.
I'm okay with the hot. It's just all the chili based stuff is not my favorite.
All right, Mike, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Well, you guys probably don't know, but I was sick with COVID and I was out of flight ops for 9 months. When I first got out of the hospital, I had lung damage, and I was going to see a pulmonologist on a pretty regular basis. And the first time they measured anything on me, they told me my lung capacity was 50%. And I was, shocked. And I went back a month later and my lung capacity was like at 55%. And I was like, how long is it going to take for me to get back to 100%? And the guy's like, yeah, never. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, the normal human body only goes to 80%. Only super extreme athletes get up to use full capacity of their lungs. So 80% is what I'm shooting for to get back to normal. The last time I had a checkup, I was at 66. The FAA minimum is 65. So I got my flight medical back, and I've been in flight ops since March. And my next follow-up with that guy is in March of 23. And I'm feeling good otherwise. My workouts are the same. I don't really notice a degradation in my lung capacity at all. So I'm thinking I'm improved, if not back to complete normal, close.
Yeah, because you were down and out for quite a while. I mean, we were texting back and forth, and it seemed like, okay, yeah. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And were you ever kind of like, holy geez, this could be it?
No, I never had that fatality to it, but I was pretty frustrated it took a long time. I couldn't even work out. I didn't have the energy to work out, and I'm an everyday workout guy. And I didn't work out until maybe middle of January last year.
Okay.
And then it was a real slow recovery trying to get back, I look now at some of the times I put up on some of the stuff I do, not so much the weights I do, but the time. I try and go fast for cardio, and boy, I was really struggling early on.
Well, yeah, you're breathing through a coffee stirrer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mike, you're a big family guy that has raised two incredible men. What advice do you have for parents out there in raising men? Because I think that's kind of missing from society a lot of times nowadays, where we're just kind of raising boys, or we're telling them, you can't. And that's what the show is all about is, men being men, and it's okay to talk about it. What advice do you have?
I think allowing them responsibility to own it, to make mistakes. It's just the same leadership of young Marines, being a dad, coaching Pee Wee sports with youth is kind of all the same. You give them the tools to do the mission. You give them the box that they want to stay in when they do the mission, and then you just let them go and you supervise. And if they get outside the box, you poke them back in. But I'll give you a story about taking both the boys with my mom. We went to an Angels game out in California, and I don't know. I think Nolan needed to use the restroom, and he was probably about 7 or 6, and Jordan was, 4, And I was like, well, you guys remember where it is? It's right up the stairs, go down the hallway and hang a left. And it's the first door on the left. And my mom was just like, you're not letting these kids go to the bathroom by themselves, are you? And I was like, just be quiet, Mom. Hold on a second. I let them get about halfway up the stairs, and I popped out on the aisle and I trailed them. They didn't know I was there. You know, they were holding hands, go up the stairs. They went to the bathroom. I hopped into the door and made sure that they were doing what they needed to do and no weirdos were in there. And then they finished and washed up. And then I happened to be out the door. Hey, how you guys doing? Everything working all right? And you know, that they had the confidence that they were allowed to do something on their own. So you got to you can't baby them all the time. You've got to let them be men. And if they make mistakes, you correct them and get them back in the box.
Okay, did you raise both of them the same exact way? Because both of them are completely different. I mean, you've got Jordan, who is the younger one. He's a little bit more wild. He's a free spirit. And then you've got Nolan, who's the older one, but he's always kind of like the old soul, the old spirit. He's always been kind of like an old man, even like when he was 13.
True. Nolan's very serious and very focused all the time. And Jordan is not. I like to say Jordan's the kid that I raised in the ready room. So that kid, he can bring it. He can take it. He can dish it back out to you. You better be on your A game with him. Nolan's a little slyer and quieter and maybe more politically correct. But yeah, we kind of raise them both the same way as much as you can. I mean, everybody knows this. First child gets a little more coddling and attention. Second child, X-Files is a good example in our house. You remember the show X-Files? Cam and I used to watch that on a regular basis. Nolan gets afraid of gory, scary stuff. So they come walking out of their bedrooms playing games to go get a drink of water, and they're walking through the living room and we're like, hey, we're watching X-Files. And Nolan, he walks through with his eyes covered up. So and Jordan stops and carries on a conversation as long as he can in case there's something spooky he can see. That's just them. But we let them go the same way, other than maybe Jordan probably got a lot more freedom to do stuff that we were afraid to let Nolan do.
Yeah, second kid. Yeah. We've spoken before, and I know you're really into friendships.
Yes.
And that, quote unquote, is the key to never feeling alone.
Correct.
Do you think that is what brought you to the Marines? They seem like they are a very, very tight group, and a tight group forever.
Yeah, that sounds really nice, but no. My dad was a Marine. And
okay.
And I went to USC on an ROTC scholarship, so I was looking for ways to get into a college that I couldn't otherwise afford. I mean, I was going to go to Cal State Fullerton, and they had a football program back then. I was going to play football at Cal State Fullerton. Mm-hmm. And then I heard a counselor talking one day about the ROTC scholarship, came home and asked my dad, who was a Marine reservist. He was a principal in the same school district that I was going to school in, and he's a reservist in the Marine Corps. And as soon as I mentioned interest in that, he just took off and showed me the ropes. And there was no question if I was going to go into the military, it's going to be the Marine Corps. Just because that was our family. There were no other services.
Okay. So what about the friendships? What's your secret sauce for maintaining friendships over the years? Because it's so hard. Monaghan even talked about it with his minute for Monaghan to maintain friendships, especially, and it should be easier now due to the fact that we have so much technology, but it's almost like the more technology we have, the more ways that we can communicate with one another, the farther we get from others.
Yeah, it is. It's important to have friendships, and it's easier to stay in contact with people. I also would say that you have to kind of be forgiving is the wrong word, but I have really close friends of mine that I understand that I may not talk to them for a year, but that doesn't diminish what we've been through in the past together. And we can pick right up and go on, but you got to stay in communication with people. I am good at that. And I don't know, maybe some of the other questions down the road here, I'll be talking about my social involvement. I am definitely in my group and in my community, I'm a ringleader as far as social gatherings go, particularly among men. And it's very, very healthy for men to have other men to confide in and to hang out with. And you don't have to have a sob session. You can just sit there and have a beer and talk and just be together. And it's a big deal.
Well, and that you're basically reading my next question. I was going to say, you actually host a birthday party for the Marines. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm not talking about that, but I do. That's kind of something I fell into by default. Do you want to talk about that first?
Sure. Let's talk about that, because I love that day.
Okay. So the Marine Corps birthday is a huge deal. The commandant in the World War I era was John A. Lejeune, and he decreed that all Marines everywhere should celebrate the birthday, and they set the date as November 10th, because that's the date in 1775 that the Congress authorized a Marine Corps and sent the first commandant, who was a captain, into he set up shop in a pub on the true story, on the piers in Philadelphia, a pub called Tun Tavern. He set up shop and signed up longshoremen to be the first Marines. So we like to say that we're born in a bar or born in a tavern. Well, but since the Commandant came out with that in the World War I era, Marine Corps has gathered, whether you're in a foxhole or whether you're a bunch of retired guys like I have now, we get together and we have birthday cake and we celebrate the birthday of the Marine Corps. We just did this last week, 247th birthday. And what I got into was I was the OPSO of my reserve F-18 squadron out here in Fort Worth, and my squadron CO got invited to go join some guys at a pub for the Marine Corps birthday. He asked me if I would go in his place. So I did with another guy. It was 12 guys sitting around, mostly retired Marines. They had a sword and a cake. We always cut the sword with a Marine Corps officer's Mameluke sword. And so we had this great event. And I said, hey, I could get a few more guys here next year if you guys want. And they're like, yeah, do it. And then I did. And then the next year I was like, hey, I can get a few more guys here if you want. And they're like, hey, why don't you just take over the whole party? And that was about 22 years ago, I think.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And now I put on the party. It's the same pub. It was owned by a Marine. When he sold the pub, he actually put in the with an agreement with the new owner that he still had to host my party every year. So that's actually written into the sales contract on this pub. But we get 150 to 200 Marines, some of which I don't know, Marines, friends of Marines, wives of Marines, boyfriends of Marines, whatever, all kinds of, any rank, any MOS, which is your military occupational specialty, current Marines, old Marines, retired Marines. It's great. It's fantastic. And I have a big cake there. And one of the cool traditions, I know you're going to talk about the Marine Corps, what makes the Marine Corps different. Here's a here's a very good example for you. One of the traditions of the Marine Corps birthday is the cutting of the cake. And what we do is we have the oldest Marine present. We slice the cake with the Marine Corps officer's Mameluke sword, and the oldest Marine present, who gets introduced in his bio, etc. He gets the first bite of cake, and then he hands that piece of cake to the youngest Marine present, who gets to finish the cake. And that kind of signifies the passing of traditions, the lineage of the Corps from the oldest guy in the room to the youngest guy in the room. And for me, what's been very special the last 6 years here, I've had a local Iwo Jima survivor, a guy named Corporal Don Graves, who I personally befriended. Don is 97 years old now. He's still a liberty risk. He's a wild man out there in the Ville. And he's been my oldest Marine. And this year I had my youngest Marine was 26. We've had younger before, but this kid, Joey, was classmates and teammates with Jordan in high school football. He's from right here in Keller. He's been a Marine. He's out of the Marine Corps already. And now he's a fireman like Terry Crosby down he's in Arlington here in North Texas. And how special was that for me to have a personal friend, Marine Corps Iwo Jima veteran, handing a piece of cake to a kid that went to high school with my youngest son, Jordan. Pretty cool.
Is there a dry eye in the house when the oldest Marine takes a bite and gives it to the youngest?
Yeah, we're all Marines. We don't cry.
You bunch of liars. What was harder, being a Top Gun pilot, being a Marine, or being a father?
Being a father, because it has a lot more responsibility to you, to other than self, right? So being a Top Gun fighter pilot, obviously, would be harder than being a Marine because I had to be a Marine first.
Okay.
That was a prerequisite to becoming a Top Gun fighter pilot. But it's just, but that's all about self. I saw one of your episodes, the guy last week, maybe, that does the extreme sports.
Oh,
and he was talking about how, in your example for you, Rubio, how when you snap, you're not nervous when you're out there. Everybody else is nervous for you. Same thing in fighter aviation. You're so prepared and you're not nervous. It's your job. But boy, people, white knuckle the stuff around there, looking at you. And my mom was scared to death the whole time I was flying fighters.
When you went and watched Top Gun, the original Top Gun, the second one, I'm assuming you did. Do you just sit there with a notepad and did it?
No, I thought the first one's now the first one came out. I was in flight school. I was in Pensacola, so I was not yet a fighter pilot, and that was a pretty cool thing so I didn't know how realistic it was, but it was definitely it definitely paved the way for our fame. Yeah. As fighter pilots, to give us some panache out in town. The second one I have not seen yet, believe it or not, just because of timing. And I'll tell you the real reason I haven't seen it. My best friend here in Texas is also a Marine Corps fighter pilot, Top Gun guy. And my wingman that I went through Top Gun with lives around the corner from me here. And my buddy's wingman that he went through Top Gun with is the recently retired assistant commandant of the Marine Corps. He just moved here. And we kind of had a pipe dream that all 4 of us Top Gun guys would go see the movie together and try and get 5 adult men's schedules to jive. It just hasn't worked out. So I think 2 of those guys have gone to see it on their own, and me and my buddy Herman have not.
Okay, speaking about the military, I've been reading a lot, and I need to talk to you about it because you were in the military. Why do you think enrollment is decreasing so much? I keep reading enrollment's down. What's the deal? I mean, obviously we need the military. It's kind of a big deal here.
Right. Well, I think part of it is there's kind of focus up. There's not a mission to focus on right now. We're kind of, there's no big bad wolf out there. There's no Afghanistan and Iraq to I'm going there right now. Mm-hmm. There's the possibility of other things that you may or may not agree with happening. So I think that there's a little bit of that. So for your super gung-ho guys that want to just get out and go kill someone on behalf of America, there's nothing out there right now. So there's that. There's also, I talked to one of the kids I coached in Pee Wee football, who was one of Jordan's teammates all the way through. He's a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps right now. He's in a program called MESEP, Marine Corps Enlisted Commissioning Program, where he's going to be an officer as soon as he graduates from Arizona State, where I think he's in his last year, and he wants to get into aviation. And I reached out to him a little bit for his take on this idea, and he thinks social media has something to do with it. Think along the lines of a recruiting trip where you go and all the guys on the team pull you aside and go, yeah, this sucks. Don't come here. So there's a little bit of that with social media, like Yelp, for example. You might have a restaurant that you love and is a seriously good restaurant, and all you go on the reviews, and the Yelp reviews are all negative reviews, right? So people don't take the time to tell you all the virtues of something that's good, but they will take the time to tell you something that's bad and why they don't like it. And obviously another problem right now is leadership is woke, and military doesn't attract woke people per se. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say everything that's happening in the military is bad, because it's not. There's obviously some virtue to it. The military has always reflected our society, and the military has always been driven by civilian leadership at the very, very top. But I think that we see a lot of careerism at the top because the civilian leadership is pounding the desk on wokeness. You see a lot of guys trying to, at the top, I'm talking flag ranks and stars, that instead of standing up to that are agreeing with it, pushing that agenda, whether they think it's right or wrong, and they're doing that for careerism. And I think people see through that.
I think that to see right through it, in my opinion, is I don't care who's fighting for me, as long as they're fighting for me and they're the biggest badass there. That's my take. I don't care what color you are, what you're doing, as long as you are just a big badass and you're doing something that I'm not willing to do, because I'm just not as much of a quote unquote man as you. More power to you. I want the biggest, baddest human beings possible running.
And let's not kid ourselves. Those guys are still out there. We have people in the military that are big badass wolves that are out there to protect us, whether they agree with what we think or not. They're there for to defend our freedom. So
in everything you've done in your life, except going to USC, you've always brought your A game.
Correct.
Gun, these monster airplanes. How do you do it, and what advice do you have for other men?
Be prepared. So there's nothing wrong with practice, right? And you can make mistakes in practice, but you have to be prepared. In fighter aviation, we had this thing called the OODA loop. Have you ever heard of the OODA loop, Rubio?
Hell no.
So it's called Observe, Orient, Decide, Act, and it was invented by some doctor or Air Force background guy, and it's decision making. So you observe. Let's say in my case as a fighter pilot, I observe an enemy aircraft across the circle from me. I orient. He might have more speed than me or a little altitude than me, or I maybe have that. I decide what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn across his 6, nose low, and get some angles on him, and then I do that. I act, and as soon as I make that move and he makes his move, there's another observe, orient, decide, act. And the smaller your OODA loop gets, you're going to get, your goal is to get, I can't see where there you go. The smaller that gets, your decision making gets tighter, and you want your OODA loop to be smaller than the other guy's OODA loop. You'll get radius of fight on him. You outthink him. So I think OODA applies to a lot of things that I've done. I didn't know about that until I was a fighter pilot, but you have to kind of make your decisions and make them and quick. And the more, like, think about Tom Brady. What makes Tom Brady great? Well, he has the ability, obviously, but he has the experience level where he has seen different scenarios so many times. His decision making is just so rapid and so quick because there's nothing to do to fool him. And that's what I think so preparation to me is a big key. I still get nervous when I go to my annual recurrent training, or every 9 months I got to go to training at Delta. And, back in the day, it used to be a job jeopardy kind of thing. It's not so much now, but I still get nervous preparing for that. And Cammy will tell you I'm kind of a bit of a bore around the house. I'm, a little grumpy, a little uptight. And, but I'm preparing. By the time I get there and show up, I'm over prepared to do what I need to do. And I think that helps a lot as far as, always bringing your A game, because decision making is two different types. You have intuitive decision making, which is the seat of your pants per se, and deliberate decision making. You can make a lot of decisions. Think about a football coach with a laminated sheet full of plays that are based on scenarios they've gone through and made all these deliberate decisions. If they do this, we're doing this kind of thing. However, you have this intuitive decision making, like you have to kind of react to something. And the more experienced you are and the more prepped you are, that intuitive is actually a little bit more deliberate than you think it is. So that's how I would say to bring your A game. And bring your A game. Don't go out there lackadaisical. I learned that when I was we talk about Top Gun. So in naval aviation, the Top Gun, the big deal is to get the patch. You get a patch you get to wear on your shoulder. That's the Top Gun patch. And Top Gun graduates are called patch wearers, which is a cool thing to be. You want to be a patch wearer. Well, I got to fly against a patch wearer when I was a young lieutenant. So this patch wearer shows up in my squadron. He gives me a brief. We're going to go out and do a 1v1. My fangs were out. I was going to make a name for myself against this guy. And I had a pretty good day. I didn't kick his butt. He didn't kick my butt, but it went pretty good. And then later on in my career, when I was a patch wearer and I went into a squadron, I'd see some of these young guys that would come with their fangs out, ready to go. And every now and then you'd have a guy, if I didn't have my A game on, guess what? A guy with a little experience is going to be able to, sneak back there at my 6 o'clock and get a kill on me. So you got to bring your A game all the time.
Last question. This is only going to take like 5 seconds. I have to know at this point, what was your call name?
Horse.
Oh, that's right. Horse. Yeah. Jesus. Okay. That's what it's from?
Yeah, that's it. Horse. Yeah.
Okay. God love you.
And honestly, I'll tell you, most of my friends know me as Horse. They call me Horse. Even at Delta, people call me Horse. My old man called me Horse because that was my call sign. Came early in my F-18 career, and it's been with me the whole way. And almost everybody calls me Horse.
Everyone, Mike Frese, you are absolutely fantastic. There are so many good nuggets of information on this. You are really, really doing a wonderful job. You have done a wonderful job. Tell the family I said hello.
Will do.
I'm going to come back. We're going to do the final segment of the bottom line. Mike Frese, thank you so much for being on the Rubio Method. Christian, I'm out.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text to emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Focus up. I'm talking to you, Mary from Caldwell, Idaho. Thanks for watching along with Damon, Jason, and Steph. Thanks for watching on ngbn.tv. Emailing all your questions to rubio@therubiomethod.com. Watching on ngbn.tv, YouTube, Spotify, Google, and of course, Amazon. Right now, we have the bottom line segment. Remember, the bottom line for all you new watchers and listeners is just basically stuff you should have learned without even realizing you learned it. Number one, if you need to, fully disconnect and don't look back. This is what Monaghan was talking about with the social media. Sometimes you just need to put your cell phone away in a drawer, go have a great weekend of Little League, nachos, do what you got to do, and just be social without your cell phones. I know it's very, very hard because we're all very, very connected, but sometimes you just need to fully disconnect and don't look back. Number two, one truly is the loneliest number. I think that's part of a song, but I'm not going to sing it for you. But it's great. It's exactly what Frese was talking about, how you need friendships, build on them, keep communicating, whether it's with the Marines and you have, 250 guys coming around and you're cutting cake with a damn sword, which I got to see pictures of that, or just, going out, working out, doing volunteering, like Monaghan said. One truly is the loneliest number, and don't just be solo out there. And your third bottom line, no matter what you do, bring your A game. Like Frese said, prepare, and always bring your A game so you're always ready to fully attack life. That's all for episode 20. This was a good one. There was a couple of little minor malfunctions all around the place. I dropped my mouse, had a FaceTime call come in. I don't know if we're going to edit that one up, but we'll find out. Thanks for always watching. Christian, I'm out.